Welcome to a special broadcast of the G.L. Henderson Show on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. You can find them at artistfirst.com. And now sitting in for GL tonight, it's our guest host, the judge and author, the Honorable Hubert L. Grimes.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you and appreciate our listening audience out there tonight. We're starting to get into the chill of the winter, and we're so grateful to be here in Florida, where it's not quite as cold as it is up north, but we're getting a little touch of it as well. So I want to just take a moment and welcome all of our listeners out there, knowing that this is indeed the season of the holidays, and we're grateful to be able to come together with each of you, and I hope that all of you will have an exciting, special, and happy season of celebration. Whether you're celebrating Christmas, celebrating Kwanzaa, celebrating New Year's, Hanukkah, or any of the other host of different activities that may be going on. So we want to welcome you once again to the G.L. Henderson Hour. We've got a very special guest with us tonight, a good friend of mine of longstanding, going back even a generation or so, and none other than Mr. Lynn Thompson. I want to tell you, welcome, Lynn.
Hey, Judge, glad to be with you tonight.
All right. Well, for those that may not have heard this name before, they certainly are going to get to know him quite well before the evening is completed. And we're just excited to be able to, as we say, connect with someone that I call not only a homeboy, but a member of my extended family. But he's not here just for that. He's here because he brings so much to the table, and I know that he's going to inspire our listening audience tonight on so many levels. And so, Lynn, I actually met your parents before I met you when I first moved here to Daytona Beach some years ago. And certainly the Thompson name, the Thompson family here in the Daytona Beach area is one that is well known for generations for service that they provided at each generational level. And certainly I want to just say thank you for all of what you do and all of what your family has done to help make life better for so many other people here in the Daytona Beach area and surrounding area.
Man, I certainly appreciate that. And it's a joy to be sitting here calling in to talk to you from Atlanta, Georgia, where it's not warm and sunny here. It's rather rainy and about 40 degrees here in Atlanta, Georgia tonight.
Wow. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that as part of our discussion here tonight because you're there in preparation for a very special event. But before I get into that discussion, because that's going to be something very powerful, let's talk a little bit about your background and who is Lynn Thompson? Who is he?
It depends on who you're talking to.
All right.
For some folks, they might say the sorry, no good, so and so, but
we're not talking about those people.
No, we're going to rebuke those guys. Okay.
Yes.
But I'm just a guy who just tries to do right by everybody and just tries to do right by God. And I've been very fortunate to have been blessed with a set of unique skills. But I'm a simple man who understands who I am and who God is and knows the difference between the two. And in doing that and knowing that, I've been able to just have a very successful and yet simple and humble life. And I've made my mark athletically and artistically, for most of my life, and I continue to do so. I had a great career in college athletics, from a participation standpoint to an administration standpoint, and I've done the same thing artistically. And now that I have retired from college athletics as an athletics administrator for over 31 years, I've now kind of transitioned into another realm at the conference level and working with the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, but also establishing my own business as a consultant and a creative consultant in producing, directing, and creating projects, which is something that has fed my passion for most of my life.
Well, one of the things, you said a mouthful there, but one of the things that you are certainly best known for is in the administrative level. You were the longest-serving athletic director in one space of anyone in the NCAA. You received a special award for that just a few years ago. I believe it was a couple of years ago that came out and came about. But let's get back to how did you become that successful athletic director? Because you were the guiding force at Bethune-Cookman for so many years and helped to develop so many championship programs there at that small university. But let's talk about let's go back to the starting days when you were as you said, a little snotty-nosed kid that was running around playing and actually kicking footballs. Talk about how you got your start.
It's amazing that people can see something in you that you can never see in yourself. And I don't care what field you're in. I don't care what vineyard you may be trying to plow. I don't care which location you may be in. Isn't it crazy and isn't it real that people can see more stuff in you that you can see in yourself? And such is the case with me as it related to beginning a career in athletics. I've been an athlete and a successful one all my life. And I was forging my own career in television and the arts in Atlanta, Georgia, after a pretty decent athletic career, and got the call to come home. I was working in the arts and, in Atlanta, working for PBS. I had a television show, performing at the Alliance Theater Company, writing, producing, and I got a call one day that my mother said my father was going into the hospital for surgery, and I came home because, and he said, son, why did you come home? You didn't have to come. And I said to him, Dad, if the shoe was on the other foot, what would you have done? He said, I would have been there the next morning. And I was there the next morning. And he was ill, and he fell ill and I never went back to Atlanta. And I just, sometimes you get a phone call that changes your life overnight. And I came back home to help take care of my father for the last. He received a prognosis that he would only last and live for the next 6 months, and he lived 3.5 years with prostate cancer. And I wanted to commit to taking care of him, and in doing so, I stayed in Daytona Beach. And while I did that, I received a job offer and turned several of them down, but I decided to take a part-time offer as the executive director of the Bethune-Cookman University Athletic Foundation. And it was something that was close to me. And so what I did was I worked several hours a day running the Athletics Foundation. And at night, I would relieve my mother, and I would spend the time with my father. And I did that for 2 years. My father, after he died, I was still doing it. And one day, Dr. Oswald Bronson, the president of Bethune-Cookman, who's a dear friend of yours and a mentor of mine, asked me, we were at a luncheon, and he asked me, he said, Lynn, don't leave. I need you to do me a favor. And so I said, okay. While he was talking, I ran outside and cleaned out my car because I thought he needed a ride. My car was so junky. It was so junky, Judge. And so afterwards, when everybody left, he asked me, we walked out, and I thought we were going to my car, and we turned left when it should have turned right. And he began to walk towards his office across the campus, and he says, I really need you to become my athletics director at Bethune-Cookman. And I was floored. And I felt totally unprepared to do so. And he said, and I told him that. And he said, no, but God told me that you are the guy that needs to do this. And so I said, well, I need to go home and pray on this. I went home and talked to my mother. She told me not to do it. I talked to my brother. He told me not to do it. I talked to 2 other friends. They told me not to do it. I talked to Jack Cy McLaren, who was like a father figure to me. And he told me, you have to do it. There's nobody else that I could think of who could do it. I talked to one of my close friends, Larry Weston, who told me, man, I don't care what everybody else is saying. You've got to do this. It's in you.
How old were you at that time, Lynn?
I just turned 32 years old.
Wow.
I was and I decided to do it. And at the age of 32, I became the youngest athletics director, Division I athletic director in the nation.
Wow. Now, prior to that, because now your history in sports goes back beyond that administrative level, because you got a chance to have a stint in the NFL.
Yeah, I played with the Green Bay Packers in 1979, and it was an injury-filled 1 year where they put me on the injury reserve list and had a torn hamstring with some blood clots in it. After that year, they released me, and I decided I was going to graduate school with the money that I made. The World Football League came out, and I had a couple of teams that called me. My agent at the time was Bud Asher, who went on to become the mayor of the city of Daytona Beach, and he called me. A couple of other NFL teams called me. And I just decided that, that was enough for me. That experience proved to me that I had what it took to do that. But being in the hospital 2 weeks in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I had a chance to really to pray on it, and I felt that there was something else for me to do, and lo and behold, it was. But I gave thanks for the opportunity to get where I got in pro football, and that 1 year experience was good enough for me, and so I was able to use that experience and catapult my career forward with the knowledge that I had done everything that I felt I needed to do from a playing standpoint. And if God would give me an opportunity to take all of those skills and utilize them in the arena of athletics, then I would certainly expand every opportunity that he gave me and take advantage of every opportunity to the fullest. And that's what I did. And what I did then was, I was always in the arts, and as a writer and producer and director, and I saw the similarities because athletics is nothing but the performing arts. Think about this. The gym, the baseball diamond, the football field, the tennis court, they're nothing but the stage. They all have lights, don't they? The game plan is the script. The athletes are the actors. The coaches are the directors. The audience is the audience. The fans happen to be those people who sit in the stands, and they come to see a performance. And sometimes when you get off script by not following the game plan, they call that improvisation. And so you have to prepare. You've got to come and perform. And regardless of whether or not you are injured or things don't go as planned, the show must go on. And what drives you is the ability to always give your audience the best performance you could possibly give them. And so I was able to just take all of that, the passion, that understanding, and just fuel that and put that together in a philosophy and bring that to the intercollegiate athletics realm from an administrative standpoint. And that is what we endeavored to do at Bethune-Cookman College and then University for the next 30 years of my career.
And the great thing about this is that if we were talking about, yes, the X's and the O's, but the success stories that you have created there. I mean, your combined championships was well over about 100 different championships. I don't remember what that number was.
We won a ton of them, and one thing we promised was that each one of those championships represented the penultimate moment in a student athlete's life, and that should be celebrated, And so we bought them rings. We found out that the thing used to be Letterman's jackets. and sweaters. You remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
And watches.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Those days quickly went away, and now folks wanted to buy rings. They wanted pendants and things like that, tokens. And so that is what we did. And people began to really take advantage of those opportunities. And I will still run across student athletes from those early years, and they still have those rings, man. Many of them have them that they don't wear them anymore. They might have them in a box. But it represents much more than just a piece of jewelry. It represents a commitment, sacrifices. It represents memories from bonds formed through hard work with teammates whose lives intersected at a moment in time. And even if those kids come from different socioeconomic backgrounds and from different countries, different parts of the globe, when they come together again, it is as if time stopped right then, and they were able to resume those same moments in their lives. You know, that is the beauty of what intercollegiate athletics has to offer and has done for so many people. But the thing that really gets me and the passionate moments that people really remember most is the most powerful element of sports is the huddle. Mm-hmm. When it's time to huddle up, there are no isms and schisms. There's no racism. Mm-hmm. There's no poverty. There's no hatred. In that huddle, everybody is equal. There's no skin color. The only color that matters is the color of the uniform. The only cause that matters is the cause of victory, to win as a unit, you know. And when the coach comes in and says, listen up, everybody looks into that coach's eyes. And they trust that coach because that coach has a game plan to lead them to victory. And society can learn a lot from coaches who do it the right way because they have the ability to rally groups of people to a common goal and a cause, to build an alliance, to build a consensus, to do something good for a great group of people, and that can make lives change forever. And that's some of the beautiful things that sports has to offer. The huddle, a team is nothing but a family. And so those valuable moments, and you've seen it when you and I worked together, when I worked for you and with you during your presidency at the cabinet level where team dynamics had to come into play. And, you know, and team dynamics are so important at every level of society. And I'm just blessed that I was able to utilize a lot of those skills that I learned at every level of my life, from a professional and a personal level.
Well, you know, one of the things that I was always impressed with by you is that you were able to develop a concept that said that it was not just you were dealing with student athletes, but that you saw your work and the work of the coaches who worked with you and under you. You saw that as ministry, after ministry. And I'll be honest, I'd never heard another AD or coach express it in just that way. Explain that to our listening audience. How is it that these your services and the work that you did there at Bethune and also influences upon other schools? How is it ministry? Define that for us.
Let me tell you how I see it as ministry. When you get an athlete, a student athlete, particularly at the Division I level, which is the highest level that the NCAA has to offer, those kids come with acclaimed resumes. They are the best of the best, but they have bad habits. You know, many of them come with those resumes, you know, with great write-ups, and the assumption that I can do everything that I want to do because I have no weaknesses. But in real terms, what you always have to do is break them down almost from a biblical standpoint to the threshing floor. You've got to separate the wheat from the chaff. You know what I mean? And you've got to take them down to the basic raw materials and then rebuild them. From a ministerial standpoint, that is what we do in the church. When you've got to sacrifice and say, I give up. I cannot do this by myself. I need you, God. I surrender. And in the church, when you say, I surrender, that is when you get your ultimate victory, because you recognize it is not by my might, but by your might. And so for us in ministry, we've got to convince these high-level, acclaimed athletes that you really, the key to your success is to focus on your fundamentals. And that will keep you where you need to be. And so for us to go focus on fundamentals, we've got to always keep present in their minds that two things. Number one, I know who I am, and I know who God is, and I know the difference between the two. Because so many times we get kids who say, I'm the Savior. You know, I am. I am nothing. There's nobody better than me. I am the one. And nothing can be farther from the truth. And so athletics and sports in particular can shape and change your life, but only if you realize that you have been blessed with a rare ability to run fast, to jump higher, to outsmart the opponents, to throw a baseball, to catch a football, to swim faster, to hit a golf ball, to do so many different things that others cannot do. And in doing so, if you focus on your fundamentals, perfect those techniques, then what you are doing is honoring God by becoming the best that you can be with those skills that he blessed you with. And that's why I say if we are able to teach kids how to connect with that, then it is indeed the greatest form of ministry that we could ever operate in.
You know, we often see this commercial on television where they're talking about NCAA athletes, and they highlight the fact that the super majority of them will not be playing at the next level, but they will enter into other kinds of careers and be successful in those things. And one of the comments you just made suggests to me that the importance of that grounding, you know, because if the grounding is good and established, then no matter what they pursue beyond college, it sets the stage for success.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Let's take, for example, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm watching the story of Shaquille O'Neal on TV, you know, his documentary. And we know Shaq, and we know Lucille, his mother.
Right.
He's a personal friend of both you and I. Okay,
right.
But right now, Shaq made his mark on the basketball court. The basketball court is only 94 feet long, okay? That's the length of a basketball court, 94 feet. On the basketball court, on the bench, there are only 19 to 20 seats on a basketball court. That includes the coach's seats and the roster. So most kids will say, I want to be in the NBA. So think about this. You got 32 NBA teams. And 32 times maybe 15 to 16 seats on that bench. That's the total number of NBA players. But now, that's just the number of seats on the floor. But think about the offices in the arena and the other seats in the arena of employees on that franchise. The offices that may be in an office building that support that franchise. And so when kids say, I want to make it to the NBA, there are far more opportunities in the realm of basketball than on the court playing. Eric Lewis understands that, who is our good friend from Daytona Beach, who I gave a basketball scholarship to. Now he is a veteran NBA official. And Eric had the skills to play point guard for Bethune-Cookman as a basketball player, but he had greater skills and greater knowledge of the game and became an iconic referee and still doing it, you know. And so there are far greater opportunities in the game of basketball outside of just playing on the court. And we've got to convince young people of that fact. But all they can see is lacing up the sneakers, putting a jersey on with their name on the back of it, and making millions. But what they don't see is that you can still make the millions as an owner, as a coach, as a GM, as an agent, you know, as a director of marketing, so as a league VP, so many other opportunities in the realm of basketball that they don't understand at this point. And our job in athletics, as from an administrative standpoint, is to turn that light bulb on in their minds to match the level of passion in their hearts so that they can find the right answers and opportunities.
You know, you have, during the 27, I know it's actually 30, was it 32 years of service as the AD? You have had young people who have gone on to pro careers. And, you know, some of them that just kind of immediately jump out in my mind, and I know that there are others, but I think about the Rasheen Mathises and the Nick Collins.
Oh, yeah. Nick Collins, Eric Weems. Eric Weems, so many of them. Right. Yeah.
And yet, you've also got those who've gone on to even to other careers. And like you say, you mentioned about, of course, Eric Lewis, you know, who has not only been a successful NBA referee, but has also been a referee in several of the, not just playoff games, but NBA championship games.
And, that's right.
Yeah. And so it sets a powerful message that, you know, you can be more than just, and I almost want to say you could be more than just an athlete, because like you say, you could probably tell us some of the other categories of athletes that jump out of your mind of where they are in terms of professions today.
I think the greatest example of an athlete that came from our program is a kid by the name of Stevie Baggs. Stevie Baggs is an All-American football player. Stevie Baggs had a stint in the NFL and had a successful career in the Canadian Football League. Stevie Baggs is a health and wellness nut. Came back to Atlanta, Georgia, became the wellness ambassador for the city of Atlanta, Georgia, started doing commercials. All of a sudden, he gets picked up by Tyler Perry. Now he's in Ruthless, one of the stars of Tyler Perry's new show, Ruthless. Now he just inks a major Hollywood movie deal starring in a movie about Tom Brady that's in production now. And I'm going to see Steve this week. So now Steve Baggs becomes a Hollywood movie star. And he was a college football player who was bow-legged, and some of the pros scouts said he was too bow-legged to play football. But now he's a movie star. And like they say, who to thunk it, you know? And so, but he had all of those skills, and he had the passion, and he was able to just translate and transform those skills and use them in another arena. And that's what we do with athletics.
How does discipline follow? How does discipline fit into that category? Because when you said Stevie and you mentioned all the different categories of things that he did, you know, the idea of discipline sort of like jumped out at me. How does that portray a successful, I want to say, student athlete? What's the importance of discipline?
Well, let's talk about swag, because all athletes have what they call swag. You know, they got swagger. You know, you can see them. They're so enthusiastic. You know, and it's just they're confident. And when it goes beyond confidence, they call it swagger. And now they've abbreviated to call it swag. And I used to do sessions and workshops on what is swag. You know, because the kids call it swag now. And I say, well, swag happens to be strategy, work, attitude, and the last ingredient of swag is what we call game. And game is talent. You know, see, a lot of people go forth, and the last thing, they may be the least talented on the team, but they got all the other things, the strategy. They know what they're doing. They outwork people, the work ethic, the attitude. They have the right attitude. And then the least important element is the talent. They might have enough talent to get to the party, but they may not be the most talented kid. And think about this. In the legal field, now, look, everybody who graduates top of the class does not always make the best lawyer, right?
True.
Many times I've seen there's some lawyers who graduated at the top of the class but can't pass the bar on the first time. And you want to make sure that the best and the brightest always are the ones who just keep plying away at it and are committed to it and work at it. And they're the ones who have the true meaning of swag, which includes discipline. And those are the ones that just are so serious, and they're the ones who ultimately become the very best because they recognize that my talent will not get me where I need to be because I've got to have those intangibles. And many times that strategy, meaning I've got to develop a game plan for success. The work ethic, I've got to work my butt off because I've got to outwork my opposition. That attitude also involves this fact that I have been blessed to have this opportunity, and I've got to honor God with my example and with my performance because the game is much bigger than people can imagine. And what I do with this opportunity may open doors for generations of people who are watching me.
That's a great segue into another area that I want to talk about. The swagger of one of our homeboys, it'd be like from the state of Florida, that has really put a big spotlight upon HBCUs over the past couple of years, and not just for his particular college program, but for many of the other HBCUs, and that is none other than Deion Sanders. And what many would probably say that he is the epitome of swag, and has that when he walks and when he talks, people listen to him, because of his success stories in the past, but also, I guess you could say, similar to what Muhammad Ali used to do, tell you what he's going to do, and then he goes out and gets it done. How has the effect of Deion and others been in terms of the spotlight that's been placed upon HBCUs over the past couple of years? How is that?
I'm witnessing it firsthand right now. And tonight, I just left the reception at Coca-Cola World, where both of the teams that are in the Celebration Bowl were here, for some of the pre-Celebration Bowl festivities, and the media was out in they just in droves to cover Jackson State when they came into the building, and then many of them left. A lot of them stayed around when North Carolina Central came in. But what it represented was the fact that this iconic figure is attracting all of this interest as if this is a new thing, black college athletics, HBCU sports. When if you were to take the time to go to Canton, Ohio, and go in there and look at the NFL Hall of Fame and look at all these busts of these great African-American football players, you will find that a predominant amount of them came from HBCUs. And so, this is not the best kept secret in the world. It is just a reality that has not gotten the media attention that it deserved for so many generations. And now, because of the swagger of this great football player who felt called to come back home, and because of an opportunity he felt that he needed, and he took the bet and made the best out of this opportunity, I think all of our institutions now are benefiting from the attention that the world is shining the light on at all of our schools. Now that he is going to transition to the University of Colorado, I think it's going to be a wait and see moment in time to see if those lights will continue to be shown on institutions like all of ours now. And we pray that they will continue to look at our institutions and not just say, well, this was a great cause And now, this media cycle has turned its attention to something else.
You mentioned about the, number of success stories in the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, and that many of them, of course, did their studies out of HBCUs across the country. And, of course, we could throw some names out there. I mean, the names of such as Larry Little from our own Bethune-Cookman, or names such as from the undefeated Miami Dolphins team of 1972. And, of course, names like Walter Payton, of course, Sweetness. And I remember being in school at the same time and seeing him play as a college student when Jackson State played Kentucky State back in the 1974 time period. And just those all kind of tie back together. But what to emphasize for our listeners, if you want to know more about HBCU sports, and particularly football and the traditions that go with it, I want to recommend to you a book that our good friend Larry Wesley recommended to me, and it's called Breaking the Line.
Oh, Breaking the Line is a phenomenal book.
Oh my God! It talks about the rise of black college football and about three very powerful coaches: Jake Gaither from FAMU, Eddie Robinson from Grambling, and John Merritt from Tennessee State.
Right.
Oh my God! And you as if you're sitting right there on the sideline. It's as if you're in the locker room when you're hearing them prepare their students, prepare their players for the game. And yet, that tradition that got started years ago, and quite honestly, Eddie Robinson was the all-time winningest coach of all football coaches in the country. And it's just something I want to encourage people to listen to, to watch, to read. And of course, you are involved with also not only being an athletic administrator, but you've also learned how to put the pen to the pad, and you're working on some projects now that will further show the greatness of our black athletes. So is this a good time that we can kind of talk a little bit about that and give our listeners a little smidgen of what you're doing there?
I can. But before I talk about that, there's a guy that you grew up with who deserves to be in the NFL Hall of Fame, and we pray he's a finalist. God bless him. He's one of my great friends and colleagues, the late Ken Riley.
He was the one I give him credit for inspiring me to go to college. That's how close we became. Yes.
Ken Riley was a better man than he was a football player, and he was that good of a football player. And he deserves to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. The record book speaks that. And he is now a finalist. And I think his legacy deserves that. And we pray that will occur. And, so one of the things that I've been fortunate since I retired from Bethune-Cookman University is to get involved in some creative projects. And when you work with people, creative people, and you do innovative things, so many doors open. And there was a young lady who worked with me at Bethune-Cookman who was one of the most creative people I've ever been around. Her name is Jasmine Austin, and she was a very vital part of our Cat-Eye network. She was our branding officer for BCU Athletics, and such a brilliant mind. And Jasmine and I would spend a lot of time in the office talking about her future, and and I told Jasmine that, you as much as you want to do all these things, you're going to end up working for yourself. And she and her partner Sam Hall created a company called the Black Originals, and lo and behold, the Black Originals has blown up. They submitted a proposal to the Los Angeles Rams and were selected to produce a film on a man by the name of Kenny Washington. Kenny Washington happened to be the first black NFL player to reintegrate the NFL. Fritz Pollard was the very first, way back at the turn of the century. And then for 31 years, the NFL segregated itself again. And in 1940, they decided that they would basically look to reintegrate again. And Kenny Washington was a football player from UCLA and a baseball player. He was an All-American in both. And he recruited to UCLA a young football player by the name of Jackie Robinson.
Yes.
And Jackie Robinson played with Kenny Washington, and Kenny Washington's numbers were so good as a football player at Jackie Robinson that he should have won in 1939 the Heisman Trophy. But of course, they would not give it to an African American. He won a couple of other national awards and was the best football player on the western part of America. Because the NFL was segregated, he was not drafted in the NFL, nor was he drafted for Major League Baseball, even though he was an All-American in both sports. And as a result, he had to play minor league football for 6 years and work for the L.A. Police Department. And finally, 6 years later, he played pro football, minor league pro football, with a guy by the name of Woody Strode and Jackie Robinson. And the Cleveland Rams relocated to Los Angeles in the 1946 season. And Bob Hope, and members of the black press put together some legislation that said that anybody that was going to relocate to Los Angeles would have to integrate the program if they were going to play in the Coliseum. And as a result, the Cleveland Rams, before they could come, had to commit that they would integrate the program. And as a result, they selected Kenny Washington. And Kenny Washington came and played for the Rams, and he demanded that they also bring Woody Strode, who ended up being an actor in Hollywood, and they played. There was a guy by the name of Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey watched this social experience for a year, and he saw that it was successful, and he got the courage the following year to select Jackie Robinson to integrate Major League Baseball.
Wow.
And Kenny Washington still holds the record for the longest touchdown run in the history of the Los Angeles Rams. A 92-yard touchdown run. He played for 8 years for the Rams. A very quiet guy, and he still never got much of the accolades that he deserved. And about 5 years ago, the NFL recognized, they called the Forgotten Four, Marion Motley, Bill Willard, and it was two, and of course, Kenny Washington were amongst the four that were in that first class to reintegrate the National Football League. But what Kenny Washington did was that the Rams used the relationship with Kenny Washington to soothe some racial tensions in the city of Los Angeles, thus starting the very first social justice movement that sports had to offer between a franchise and a community, and it still exists today. And that's what we were writing about, and I was chosen as one of the two script writers to write this piece. And the film, it's a short film that will come out in February.
Oh, wow. Wow. And the accessibility of that, is it being produced by NFL Network, or is it being produced?
It will be, it's going to premiere at the Pan-African Film Festival in late February, and then it will be released by the Los Angeles Rams, and it will be released on the open market.
Wow.
And yes, and we're honored to be a part of that, and it's been a tremendous blessing for me to be asked and selected to be a part of this project. And of course, it is, we've got a couple of more creative projects that we are working with, some in Daytona Beach, others around the country. And I'm doing some work here. That's why I'm in Atlanta now. And trying to always create opportunities through athletics and the arts to tell stories. And that's what we've got to be, content creators, because these stories change lives and they change the world.
Wow. That's so powerful. And, speaking of the telling of stories, one of the things that I was always impressed with was your development of the Cat-Eye Network and the various pieces that it did, whether you were talking about stories on the life of Mrs. Bethune that we saw you create, or whether you were talking about the things that would stir up your athletes, to go out and seek victory on the playing fields or on the basketball courts or on the golf courses and all the things that happen there. So talk somewhat about a little bit about your Cat-Eye Network work there and how that bleeds over into so many of the other things that you're doing.
Well, we had an opportunity in college athletics. You've got to maintain your relevance. Why? Because let's be real. Sports is an industry that has an audience, and that audience needs to be fed on not only a daily but almost a minute-by-minute basis. Think about how many times people turn to their cell phones looking for instantaneous information, minute by minute. Think about bad news that we receive. Let's talk about the things one of the great policies that I really can appreciate is death notifications. If something happens from a tragic standpoint, they won't release the name of the victim until notifications have been made to the family. Why? Because they don't want somebody from a social media standpoint to scoop the story. That lets you know how fast information can get out there. And so what we have to always be is in a position to always provide content, because the audience is always looking. And if you lose your opportunity to maintain your relevance, then folks are just going to move on to something else. And so we wanted to make sure that our organization and our institution was always maintaining a sense of relevance. Why? Because we felt we had to tell a great story about the legacy of that great place and the people who chose to be a part of the fabric of that great institution. And so we had to come up with those things and bring people into their lives. And how did we do that? We had to become our own production company, be it written word, be it spoken word, or be it from a digital standpoint. We had to do everything all the time. And in order to do that, we had to capture the energy and the creativity of our students and the professionals and bring it under one roof and start producing. And that's where we came up with the Cat-Eye Network. I came up with the concept of being a production house. A young man by the name of Darian McCaskill came up with the name. And Darian is still an employee at Bethune-Cookman, and I'm praying that they're still doing a lot of the same stuff. But we had a great run. We focused a lot of stuff on Bethune-Cookman. Under your presidency, one of the greatest moments of my career was after one of the major storms hit us, when we followed you during the storm cleanup to show the damage that had been done, but it did not damage the will of the people of Bethune-Cookman University. And you remember that when we did all the cleanup, we did all those things. We showed that while the buildings may have been hurt, the people did not. And the beautiful thing about Bethune-Cookman was that at the end of the day, universities are made out of two things: buildings and people. And the people will build the buildings. And it didn't kill the people.
Nope, it did not.
That's right. And
one of the things that you mentioned that is you gave me the opportunity first to find out that I could take a cell phone and I could do a video clip. And at the time, our football team was literally playing in Louisiana and ended up being stranded there for several days because the airports, Sanford Airport and Orlando Sanford Airport, which where we fly out of, was closed because of the hurricane. And I remember doing these video clips directly from our end to your end where you were with the team. And it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of what you could use a cell phone for. But it was all about following under that Cat-Eye Network umbrella. Wow. And look at us, and look at you now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just you got to use your ingenuity, and all you got to do is tap into the ingenuity of young people because they will lead you, because the passion that they have, the curiosity that they have to stretch the bonds of creativity. They're always, I guess it's that sense of wonder that they have. There's nothing that you can't duplicate that in a child, the sense of wonder when their eyes go wide open and they're just like, oh my God, this is awesome. That is what drove us with Cat Eye Network. And that is what drove our audience.
Well, I think that certainly that legacy is continuing on, and now, like you say, you're expanding that role in terms of looking at a national message that you're going to talk about the real importance of social justice in the NFL. So it just goes to show that though things might have started off small, look at what is happening today and look at the impact that athletics has had upon our country, even upon our world. Right now, there are billions of people that are watching the soccer match going on, the soccer championships, and we're almost wrapping up over there overseas. And at the same time, I mean, we're coming to the end of football season, and we're starting to see the playoffs coming up, and following that, the playoffs for the NFL as well, and ultimately the Super Bowl. And all of these are economic generators that impact the rest of society. And look at the levels of employment, not just for the players themselves, but all the support people and personnel. And even that, going beyond that, look at the medical professions that have spawned because of the need for making sure the athletes stay healthy. And beyond that, look at the technologies that have spun off. And, you've been a part of that on so many levels, man. And that's the other thing that I'm so impressed by your life's work, the signature that you're putting upon the work that you've been able to do.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've just been fortunate to be in the right place to do the right kinds of things. And I just, I'm blessed, man. And I understand the opportunities that I've been given. But the platform that I have, I also have an awesome responsibility to share that platform because it is, while some people may think it's only big enough for them, that is not true. It is big enough for a whole lot of folks to stand with you.
Amazing. And of course, as we started off tonight talking about your being in Atlanta, you're there for the Celebration Bowl. And while I won't put you on the spot and get you to make a prediction, because I think the last time Celebration Bowl was held last year, I think that there was many people figured that Deion and Jackson State were going to come in and just blow the MEAC out. But it turned out Buddy Pugh and South Carolina State had something for them. And it turns out they beat Jackson State last year. And I know MEAC has actually sort of been able to be successful in their encounters with schools from the SWAC. Any comments about that?
Well, I think when you talk about the two leagues, folks have been pronouncing the benediction of the MEAC ever since schools like Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M and Hampton and A&T left. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The MEAC has 8 great universities who have now recommitted to stay in the league. And while other conferences have been shaking up and been moving around, and you've seen so much other transition for the last year and a half to 2, the MEAC has remained stable. That commitment has been reaffirmed by those 8 institutions. The league continues to make significant amounts of money, and in our revenue distribution, we are redistributing it back to a smaller amount of teams, thus meaning that the pie, this big old pie, is being sliced up lesser amount of teams. So a bigger share of the revenue distribution is going to our member institutions. And the league has never been in better shape financially. We're doing tremendous new projects. And I think that the game is sold out. They announced it tonight here at the first reception. We met with the ESPN crew and John Grant, the executive director of the game. We're expecting another stellar performance. Clearly, the drama is here with can Jackson State finish the year perfect and send Deion Sanders off to bigger opportunity, undefeated, with a legendary performance. And North Carolina Central, with the 9-2 team, they're saying, no, you better not forget about us because we are here to shock the world. I predict a great football game. It's going to be great television. I think the audience share is going to be significant. Folks are going to tune in, and nothing could be better than this to promote the great crown jewels of our nation, these historically black colleges and universities.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to being there and getting a chance to experience the pomp and circumstance, the atmosphere, the game, seeing people that we've known over the years and all the relationships that are established. And also, but for those who won't be there in Atlanta, the beauty of this thing is that as it has evolved, is the nationwide audience that has developed for HBCUs, in particular in the realm of football. And I project and I predict that this thing is only going to get better and bigger.
Absolutely. We've got, I'm going to be entertaining tomorrow the CEO and vice president and the chief operating officer of the Circle City Classic. You've met Alice Watson and her team. They're coming in tomorrow because we're talking about creating bold alliances with them now for the MEAC. And so many people are coming in town because they really want to enhance opportunities for our schools to have footprints in so many other markets around the nation now.
That's amazing. And then you did something else, which people may not be aware of, is that you did a connection with the local Daytona International Speedway, and you were able to help be a feeder program for some of our athletes to get a chance to learn how to become a part of these race car crews and pit crews. That was a very interesting piece that you did. And a side note, again, showing that while they may not go to professions in those respective leagues, there are other areas that people can certainly find themselves successful in. And so I just want to take a moment. Right. Go ahead.
People love the skill set, the intangible life lessons, the soft skills, all those things that student athletes gain and possess through the experiences, through the work ethic, and the life experiences that they acquire have value in so many different industries. The ability to rise from defeats, the ability to be a humble champion, understanding team dynamics, fair play, sportsmanship, all of those things, recognizing how to be a champion and share the wealth. All of those things have value in the marketplace. And a skill set, quick twitch muscles, that may work for you on a football field may also work in pit road as a member of a pit crew. Those are measurable, quantifiable skills that can be translated and transferred to another arena and from a scientific standpoint. And so people are recognizing those things now. And I think the more we are able to expose our athletes and quantify what they can do, the more opportunities we can provide them in arenas that they never believed or dreamt that they could ever have access to.
So obviously, all they got to do is follow your lead, my friend. And I want to take a moment to say thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule, even interrupting some of the activities that you're engaged in there at the Celebration Bowl to be on our call tonight. And we're excited about what tomorrow brings, excited about the weekend ahead, and even excited about the fact of what the future holds, both for what your season that you're in, as well as what we see happening here in the world of HBCU sports. So, again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. My friend, any final comments as we wrap up?
Anytime I get a chance to talk to you, I'm blessed. And I just want to say to your audience, Merry Christmas and a joyous holiday. Whatever holiday they may celebrate, I just want to wish them a joyous one, okay?
Amen to that. Amen to that. My friends, you've been listening to Lynn Thompson being interviewed. Lynn Thompson, the former athletic director, now retired from Bethune-Cookman University, the longest-serving athletic director in the NCAA, as well as a very dear friend who you have heard explain to you all the various ways that you can use the gifts and talents that God has blessed you with. So I wish you all a very fond adieu, and as in the words of one that Lynn introduced me to, and that was, never go to bed as ignorant as you were when you got up this morning. Every day you ought to learn something new. Thank you all, and we'll sign off at this time and say good night.
Good night.